what do you perceive are the advantages or disadvantages of using virtual worlds like Second Life over more traditional 2D tools like Moodle or Skype, for example?
Well, it's interesting that a lot of the 2D tools like Moodle are actually being integrated into Second Life. So it's not really about using Second Life instead of those tools. It's using Second Life in addition to those tools. And there are advantages in terms of its immersive qualities, and it's very engaging for students to be within a virtual world. But of course we can also integrate things like Moodle, because there is actually Sloodle has been developed, which is an interaction between Second Life and Moodle. So you can actually set up activities in Moodle that relate to Second Life activities, and when the students complete those activities, it feeds back into Moodle, which is very clever. So you can still use Moodle as your virtual learning environment for what it's intended, and use Second Life for activities. And of course, we're sat here today using voice, so it has similar qualities to things like using Skype, in that we can have a voice conversation. So yeah, it's really not about sort of using this as a tool instead of, but it's one of the tools in our tool bank.
Okay. And how do you ensure that the students are engaged in Second Life for educational purposes and not just going there to have fun or go and buy clothes, for example?
Learning can be fun. It's an interesting question. How do we make sure that they're not just in here having fun? I think they should have fun, and they will have fun, but they'll be learning. And I suppose the question that you're really getting at, is, how do we ensure that our students remain engaged in the educational practice whilst they're in Second Life? Well, how do we ensure that our students are engaged in the educational practice in real life? It's about classroom management. It's about making exercises engaging. It's about keeping their attention. One of the advantages in Second Life is that you are able to send instant messages. Now, you might think that that might be a distraction for the students, but what we found is that what we call back chat, which is where you are instant messaging behind the conversation that's going on, is actually exceedingly useful for perhaps teachers to instant message one of the students, say, are you okay? Are you struggling here, or can I help you to finish this exercise, or things like that, without the rest of the group knowing. And also that the students can instant message each other, private message each other. So, they don't have to put their hand up and say, I'm not getting this, can you explain? Because they might want to just get some peer support and sort of go, well, what are you doing? How are you doing this? So that, there are sort of actually ways of keeping the student engaged in Second Life that perhaps you don't have in real life. But generally speaking, it's no different than the real life classroom, in that you keep things engaging, keep things contextual and relevant, and hopefully your students will remain attentive.
Do you have any specific measures to help safeguard your students from, say, cyberbullying or those kinds of issues?
Well, cyberbullying obviously can take place in a virtual world just the same as it can in the real world and the internet. It's no different, and I think really that's a sort of a general need to educate students and learners and staff to e-safety and the procedures for dealing with things like cyberbullying. We do actually offer training through our own VLEs to our students on cyberbullying, and I guess I would direct students who are coming into the virtual world to that, because it's really no different. I mean, there are different ways of bullying people in a virtual world, and we do through orientation, inform the students of those things. I don't think it's anything special within the virtual world that they need to know about cyberbullying, and would fall into our general training provision for that.
Has the college studied the learning experiences of students and researched how the students interact in virtual worlds?
Well, yes, it's actually constant research. Actually, all the time that we're in here, certainly, at the moment, is a research and development project, and we do engage with other educators on a regular basis, and share our experiences with the learners and other teaching staff. So I would say that every single experience in here at the moment is a research experience, and we are constantly collecting feedback from the students to see how things can be improved, how things perhaps are working particularly well in the virtual world, and things that perhaps aren't. So it's a real constant process, I would say.
Would the college allow collaboration of its materials and resources for a wider educational community?
Oh, absolutely. I think, nowadays we're living in a very open, sharing, caring world, and that doesn't change in the virtual world. In fact, what you'll find in here is that most educators are exceedingly happy to share their experiences, the tools that they've developed. So very much so, yes, and we are looking to share our experiences and our research with the wider education community as it develops.
Okay, now just getting to the actual buildings and the objects, have you developed these entirely yourself, or have they come from other funded projects?
What you'll find is actually that some of the objects on here we've built ourselves. If I just pan over there, you can just about see the lighthouse over there. That is Pendine Lighthouse, actually, or based upon. And yes, we built that one ourselves. And I'll just pan over there. You can see that in the distance there, there's a tin mine, which we built ourselves. So yeah, some of it's built ourselves, but actually a lot of the stuff you can pick up in Second Life already, and some of it is free and some of it isn't, because there is actually a huge business and commerce activity base in Second Life. It does actually have its own currency of Linden dollars. So the things that we bought were bought with money that was from the original funding project. There's a lot of freebies that you'll see around, and obviously they are usually copyable, so they can be taken by other people, copies of, to take to their builds. And yes, some of the things we built ourselves, and some of those things we are giving away free, and some of those things we are selling to other people as well.
And do you have to have a lot of programming knowledge to be able to develop content?
No, anybody can build. In fact, if I just change my group here, I'll show you just how easy it is to build. You have to have permission to build where on the land that you are on, and I can just quickly show you. That is what we call a prim. A primitive, and that prim can be adjusted, made smaller, made a different shape. I can change the texture. I can change the shape actually, if I want to, and make it into a prism. So what we tend to do is we build things made out of these primitives, and all the things that you can see around us right now are essentially made out of these little building blocks called primitives. So you can see that it's actually really not very difficult to build things. Now, once you get into scripting, so that things do things when you want them to, then yeah, there's a bit of a learning curve there. There's the Linden scripting language, which is its own programming language itself. But of course, there are other people who are very good at scripting. So, don't reinvent the wheel. If there's scripts available that do things, and much of it is available free as well. There are websites available that will write scripts for you in Linden scripting language for free, basic stuff. But if you want something very much more complicated, then usually you can buy it off the shelf in one of the shopping areas, or you can obviously hire a scripter to do your scripting stuff for you.
So, what future development plans does the college have for Second Life?
Well, we've just paid our rent for the second year, so that's a positive thing. So we'll be here for another year at least. We are hoping to obviously build upon what we have been researching and developing this year with our courses that we've been starting to work with in here. And we'll see where that goes. It really will be based upon the feedback that we receive from the students and the courses. But so far, I can see that there's huge potential for development here, and a lot of courses that would benefit from being able to use this as a tool. There's a lot of interest sparking up with staff at Cornwall College, and we regularly get inquiries about how they could perhaps use Second Life with their students. We obviously, we tend to focus on HE because we can be fairly sure that they're over 18, because obviously it is only for over 18s. But having said that, I would see that probably the most challenging area of development for us will be how we can integrate the use of virtual worlds with our under 18s, because I think it would be of a massive value to them. So we do need to look at our options with that, whether we go for things like the team grid or a private grid with something like the Enterprise Second Life or Open Sim, which is far more probable, which is an open source version virtual world similar to Second Life, but an open source that you can install on your own servers and be private behind your own network. So I suppose that will be a big area for development, but it will require quite a bit of time and effort and funding probably, so it may well be reliant on those things.
What advice could you give to other colleges that are looking to perhaps introduce virtual worlds?
I think you need to engage with others that are already working in here. There's no need to come in here blind. So I would suggest that they hook up with, the RSC or colleges like ourselves, Cornwall College, because we're more than happy to help people who are adventuring into this virtual world environment. There are so many freely available help and orientation products that there's just, there's no need to find any need to struggle in here. But of course you need to know where to look, so come to somewhere like Cornwall College Island or the RSC or one or more of many of the universities that are colleges that are using Second Life, and you'll find that they are more than happy to help. So that would be my one piece of advice. Speak to people, because there's a lot of stuff out there that will save you a lot of time that people will be more than happy to give you.